Tonight on First at 9, this Thursday, the 11th of July 2024. Aim higher. President Ranil Wickremesinghe assures government support for entrepreneurs aiming to expand the global market for Ceylon cinnamon. No time to relax. Economic experts emphasize the urgency of utilizing the 4-year moratorium on external debt service to implement effective policies aimed at preventing future crises. Confusion. Parliament heats up as discussions on the upcoming presidential elections unfold. Ministers assure that elections will be held on either the 5th or the 12th of October despite constitutional uncertainties. Power loan. The Asian Development Bank approves a $100 million policy loan to bolster reforms in Sri Lanka's power sector.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Derana First at 9, live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now, in your top story tonight, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the government is ready to support Sri Lankan entrepreneurs who are willing to increase the global market presence of Ceylon cinnamon by increasing the export of the spice. The head of state made this statement during the inauguration of the main office of the recently established Department of Cinnamon Development in Karandeniya. He went on to say that while the government has taken steps to increase cinnamon production, similar efforts must be made to develop the sales in the global market.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday inaugurated the main office of the Department of Cinnamon Development in Karandeniya. The president also launched the official website of the department. During the event, he was presented with the 10-year roadmap for the promotion of the cinnamon industry and the Cinnamon Handbook, a technical publication on cinnamon cultivation.
The world isn't aware of the fact that cassia, the main competitor of cinnamon, contains carcinogenic compounds. This offers a massive opportunity for us. Through proper commercialization, incorporating value chains and marketing, we have the potential to popularize our product in the global market.
We have turned our attention towards utilizing fertilizer to increase cinnamon production. The two state fertilizer suppliers will undergo a merger and operate as a single state fertilizer company from tomorrow onwards. I have instructed the chairperson of the company to supply the special fertilizer for cinnamon at the lowest possible price without focusing on profit margins. Additionally, we have been studying modern cultivation mediums for cinnamon. We have also explored the possibility of procuring more land for cinnamon cultivation.
We have re-established a state institution to oversee the cinnamon industry after 200 years. This department's responsibility is developing cinnamon plantations. Firstly, we must increase cinnamon production. Secondly, we must improve the quality of our cinnamon products. And finally, we must increase the area in which cinnamon is cultivated. However, there is no use in increasing production without increasing sales at the same time. Therefore, we must develop cinnamon sales concurrent with cinnamon production. If this requires foreign expertise, we must secure it. Then we must identify potential markets and think about how to develop them. If Sri Lankan companies are ready to take on these responsibilities, we are ready to support them.
Meanwhile, today, President Ranil Wickremesinghe inaugurated the second phase of the flyover connecting Kompanya Vidya and Justice Akbar Mawatha. The second phase, built by the Ministry of Transport and Highways at a cost of 5.278 billion rupees, extends over the railway line between Kompanya Vidya and Justice Akbar Mawatha. The Road Development Authority, in collaboration with Marga Engineering, undertook the project to alleviate the delays and traffic congestion caused by the frequent closing of railway gates for 109 daily train journeys.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
The adjournment debate in Parliament today became heated following yesterday's cabinet decision to amend the constitution, specifically defining the president's term as 5 years. During the debate, opposition MPs accused the government of introducing amendments that are causing doubt within society, leading to a potential postponement of the upcoming presidential election. In response, government ministers denied these allegations and assured Parliament that the presidential election would proceed in mid-October, regardless of any proposed constitutional reforms or legal challenges.
We know
that if there are no local government bodies, then the commissioner can continue operations. Similarly, if there are no provincial councils, the governors can continue operations. However, if there is no president, the government ceases to exist because the cabinet of ministers functions under the president. Therefore, it is understandable why an election is being held 1 month before the president's term ends. The next question is whether the term of this president is 5 or 6 years. I remember the General Secretary of the UNP, Range Bandara, mentioning ambiguity in the constitution regarding this matter and claims that a cabinet paper will be presented to resolve it. Following his statement, ministers denied this, stating no such paper was presented. However, a week later, a cabinet paper was indeed presented. It is evident that this discussion, where the UNP General Secretary was also involved, has sparked doubts in the country about whether the elections will be held.
Even before the Supreme Court order was announced, the President clearly stated that the President's term of office is 5 years. Therefore, elections must be held.
I know the President well. He will introduce amendments as an urgent bill to the Parliament, which will then be sent to the Supreme Court. The court will likely call for a public referendum, as their objective is to create confusion. After that, the President can make decisions as the executive.
A contestant was nominated from the SLPP about 2 years ago. Check how many times he attended parliamentary sessions and how many times he has spoken in the House. He has no experience in local government or politics. Despite this, he claims he alone can save the country if nominated by the party. An issue in the constitution is not grounds for postponing elections. We must uphold the people's right to decide who becomes an MP or president. This is the government's stance.
They are claiming that the current conditions are better than in the past. Do they mean better than during the 2019 elections? No. After causing harm to the country, they now assert that the current situation is an improvement over that crisis period. What the current president and government have achieved is a normalcy which benefits them but is a burden to the general public.
Can the opposition leader provide exact figures on how he plans to address the deficit in primary accounts after paying all these salaries and wages? Can he explain how he will achieve a surplus in the balance of payments? As someone lacking technical knowledge, if he wins, the country will collapse within 2 weeks. There will be a new president before the 17th, and the only qualified candidate for this is President Ranil Wickremesinghe, the common candidate who will lead the country forward.
If the amendment is brought on the 15th, it must be published in the Government Gazette for a week. After that, the earliest it can be introduced in Parliament is July 23rd. Following that, a 2-week period is required. Until August 6th, no action can be taken, by which time the Election Commission will announce its final decision, gaining authority within 6 days.
Several trade unions of the opposition are evidently working to postpone these elections. Postal workers, railway employees, Grama Niladhari officers and administrative officials who directly impact elections. All these services must function for an election to proceed. Behind these strikes are politically motivated trade unions, not ordinary ones.
Have no doubt, the elections will be held either on October 5th or October 12th. There is no reason for postponement.
Horizon Campus 2024 intake. Register now.
The chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Duminda Hulangamuwa, says if Sri Lanka's credit ratings improve at a time where the debt restructuring is completed, outlook on the island nation can be positive. He made these comments while addressing a panel discussion held in Colombo today. Meanwhile, expert member of the World Economic Forum, Talal Rafi, is of the view that the 4-year period where the debt repayment is postponed can be used by the government to properly diagnose the root cause of the crisis and implement reforms to ensure that Sri Lanka will not fall into another crisis.
A panel discussion themed Sri Lanka's debt restructuring outcome and its impact on economic diplomacy and foreign policy, organised by the Lakshman Kadirgamar Institute, was held this evening in Colombo.
As foreign service officers have tried promoting Sri Lanka's economy over the years, and we've come across bottlenecks. Now, does this deal with some of those? Does this ensure policy and regulation consistency, which has been a constant complaint? Does this help overcome the constant allegation of corruption and lack of transparency? And does this overcome, again, the shortcoming which is pointed, or whether it's an excuse or real, of the absence or the need for a level playing field? So these are all issues I think we get an opportunity to look at in a new light post the debt restructuring, because it is connected today to a lot of things.
I think we're in a very different, uncertain era, and we have to retune ourselves to come out of this debt crisis to transformative growth. And that really means looking at not just the IMF program, but beyond that, to reforms and growth orientation. And foreign policy plays a critical role in this, and we have to really be very, very surgical about our national interest and our economic security.
The debt restructuring will definitely be positive from the point of view of business to Sri Lanka at the moment. The immediate impact of debt restructuring, we think, is that if we can get our ratings uplifted from where we are now, we are not certain as to when it can happen. When Sri Lanka's ratings go up internationally from where we are now, it will definitely have an impact on the outlook that people have towards Sri Lanka. The second biggest impact that I see and the Chamber sees is if we can start the bilateral projects that got stalled. Already Japan has agreed to commence negotiations to start the Bandaranaike International Project. The expressway projects hopefully can start once we start signing the agreement with China, hopefully this week they're signing it. With that, if we can start the bilateral projects, Ravi, those projects can throw in a lot of money into the market. I feel that with the debt restructuring, if the interest rates can have some concessions on the repayment, then there will be fiscal space given to the government not to go and spend on projects that are unviable, but at least it will give space for them to spend on capital expenditure.
What does the debt restructuring mean? It is mostly a breathing space till 2028, 2029. So the question is, how are we going to use it? That would not just concern us, but also concern the other nations here, because they have to, at the end of the day, it's their taxpayer money. So we have to respect that. We could use that time to do the correct reforms. One thing I would always advise is use that thing, because in 2028, 2029, when we start repaying, the thing is that in the next 4 years, we would have got so used to that space, we would have got quite comfortable. We will get not just comfortable, people would have forgotten that the next 4 years are going to be a bit easy because of the debt restructuring. Not doing that, 2028 when we will have to start repaying. And 2029 is going to be the one after this, the presidential elections, which is going to be very crucial and which is going to make the next government quite unpopular. How can we reform? India sort of did the reforms in 91 and they never went back to the IMF or into a crisis. Same with Thailand. But I see that as they diagnosed the problem correctly. But here, I feel that, this is my personal view, is that we haven't diagnosed it properly. Of course, you ask 9 out of 10 people, it's corruption is the main cause. But then, as far as I'm concerned, corruption is one of the major causes, but there are other things.
Everybody was speaking about we're getting a breathing space. Debt restructuring is not the end. It is actually the beginning. So now is the time we have to actually do something. Debt restructuring is getting time to get on track. This is a moment where Sri Lanka needs to decide actually why economic reforms are not going forward is because of vested interests and corruption and governance. If we are not ready to fix that, we will not succeed in our economic reforms. So that reality, that understanding is critical for us to go forward. Take tariffs and tax policies. One of the problems that private sector constantly says there is so much inconsistency in tariffs and taxes. Again, large part of it is driven by corruption and vested interests.
Now, General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Sagara Karyawasam says the general public who support the SLPP will never desert the party despite various efforts to create divisions within the SLPP. He made these comments while attending the SLPP's Colombo District Electorate Rally.
The Colombo District Electorate Rally of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was held today at Hyde Park grounds in Colombo.
The presidential election has been confirmed. However, we are not concerned of this news. We are confident of winning the electorates of Hambantota, Matara, Kurunagala, Kegol, Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. We call upon the Colombo electorate to join hands with us as the Rajapaksha camp wins over the country once again, defeating Anura and Sajid's camps.
Some are attempting to create divisions within this party. Our supporters joined us because they love their country. I would like to inform all those who are attempting to divide the party that these people who are nationalists will never abandon the SLPP.
We engage in struggles to protect and develop state assets. However, trade unions aligned with our political movement do not operate in ways that inconvenience the general public. The SLPP and its trade unions do not consider oppressing the general public a victory. We believe that there must be a clear understanding between trade unions and the government. The government must pay attention to the demands of trade unions, regardless of which political party they are aligned with. The government is of the view that they can govern the country through oppressing trade unions. This is not the way things should be done. We must hold discussions with trade unions and arrive at an understanding. We must implement plans to strengthen state entities and their operations. The SLPP is a political party of the new generation that believes in such a political revolution. We are ready to resume development projects from where they were left off at the end of Mahinda Rajapaksa's tenure.
Uday Gammampila says that the Sarvajana Balaya Alliance will host a series of public dialogues starting on the 13th of July to discuss the first draft of their strategic framework. Addressing a media briefing today, Gammampila said that these public discussions will lead to the compilation to be debated with intellectuals, professionals, entrepreneurs and trade unions.
On 6th of July, we presented the first draft of our strategic framework, which was compiled based on the ideas provided by the parties representing our alliance to the public. We expect to host a dialogue named Sarvajana Samvadaya between the 13th and the 30th of July to discuss our proposals with the public. Starting in Kandy on the 13th of July, we have planned to host a series of dialogues on a grassroots level. Based on the ideas of the public, the second draft will be compiled and publicized. The second draft will be discussed with intellectuals, professionals, entrepreneurs and trade unions. Following those discussions, we expect to compile the final draft and present it to the public. For the first time in Sri Lanka's election history, a man following engagements with the public.
මැතිවරණ ප්‍රකාශනයක් නිකුත් කරන්නේ ඉතිහාසයේ පළමු වතාවටයි කියන එක අපි තාම ආඩම්බරයෙන් සඳහන් කරනවා.
The elections have drawn closer. However, none of the political parties have expressed readiness to discuss their policies and the way forward. 2 months ago, there were discussions about debates between party leaders. However, the debate on their programs and policies did not take place. We believe that those debates did not materialize because they lacked programs and policies. Most of the candidates view the current program as the way to come out of the ongoing crisis. However, it is impossible to find solutions by choosing that path. This crisis requires alternatives, not substitutes. Sarvajana Balaya is that alternative.
The Constitutional Council has unanimously approved the nomination of Senior Additional Solicitor General Derana as the Attorney General. Derana was appointed to fill the post of Attorney General vacated following the retirement of former Attorney General Sanjay Rajaratnam. He took oaths as the acting Attorney General before the Chief Justice on the 1st of July after the proposal to extend former Attorney General Sanjay Rajaratnam's term by another 6 months was defeated for the second time at the Constitutional Council meeting. Derana is the son of Derana Senior, who served as the 38th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka.
Star Dishwasher Dali Hell Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star Dishwasher Magic Tub එක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Welcome back. Now, the Asian Development Bank today approved a $100 million policy-based loan to support and facilitate reforms aimed at enhancing the financial sustainability of Sri Lanka's power sector. The Power Sector Reforms and Financial Sustainability Programme will complement the International Monetary Fund's Extended Fund Facility arrangement and bolster the operational efficiency and competitiveness of the country's power sector. The programme will also help create a conducive environment for private investments, boosting renewable energy development and modernising power grids. ADB's Principal Energy Specialist James Kolantaraj highlighted the importance of developing cost-competitive renewable energy and providing reliable and affordable electricity supply with a transparent and independent power sector regulatory framework. Further, the Asian Development Bank will provide an additional $1 million as technical assistance from its Technical Assistance Special Fund to support program implementation, capacity building of the electricity companies, the development of their business plans and overall power systems development plans. Now, the Colombo bourse closed in red today as a fall in healthcare stocks outweighed a rise in consumer staples. The CSE All Share Price Index slipped 0.08%, settling at 11,802.26 points. Trading volume on the index fell to 17.6 million shares from the 33.6 million in the previous session. The S&P SL20 meanwhile dropped 0.37%, ending at 3,435.48 points. Market turnover fell to 541.2 million rupees from 801.2 million rupees in the previous session. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, while the banking sector came in second. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 95.6 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 516.9 million rupees. Now, in corporate news, during the 23rd Annual General Meeting of the Sri Lanka-China Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, newly elected President of the Sri Lanka-China Business Council, Harun Kader, revealed his plans to leverage the Belt and Road Initiative and support innovation and technology while promoting sustainable development. With that, here's a look at more corporate news in brief.
The 23rd Annual General Meeting of the Sri Lanka-China Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce was held in Colombo recently. The event was graced by the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Ki Cheng Hong. Addressing the gathering, newly elected President of the Sri Lanka-China Business Council, Harun Kader, revealed his aims of leveraging China's Belt and Road Initiative, benefiting from the upcoming free trade agreement between the two nations, supporting innovation and technology, and promoting sustainable development. Meanwhile, Uber announced the launch of its global flagship sustainability product, Uber Green, in Colombo, enabling passengers to book environmentally friendly rides on their Uber app. With the aim of accelerating its transition to zero-emission mobility by 2040 in Sri Lanka, Uber plans to expand on-demand electric vehicle rides with Uber Green throughout the island. The Science-Based Targets Initiative has also approved Uber's near and long-term science-based emissions reduction targets, making the company one of the first 30 US-based companies to have such targets approved. Also in corporate news, Orient Finance plc announced the appointment of Daniel Niranjan Alphonsus as the independent non-executive director of the company with effect from the 5th of July this year. In its corporate disclosure, the company stated that the newly appointed director has no relevant interest in the shares of the company as of the date of his appointment.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. We'll meet you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you. Have a good night.